As promised, we shall now see how the teacher conducts a lesson on figures of speech.
Class, last meeting you were assigned to look for the different types of figurative language and to bring some lines of poetry as examples. Are you ready to share them with us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, we have the types of figurative language. Would you like to start, Maybelline?
Ma'am, the most common is simile. This consists of two different ideas or images in comparison and are joined by as and like. I have some lines from Archibald MacLeish. It says, a poem should be palpable and mute as a globed fruit.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Ryan.
These lines came from the poet Spenser. Her cheeks like apples which the sun had rotted, her lips like cherries charming men to bite.
Okay, class. With what they shared to us, I am reminded of Jose Garcia Villa's Sonnet 1, which contains a lot of similes. Like, first, a poem must be magical, then musical as a seagull. There's another one which says, it must be slender as a bell. It must hold fire as well. And the last is, of course, it must have it must have the wisdom rather, like bows, and must kneel like a rose. All right, another type of figurative language. Yes, Kiel?
The metaphor.
This
is a direct comparison between two things or ideas where the meaning is implied. Here are my sample poetry lines. Life is a hound, equivocal, comes with a bound. Whether to rend me or befriend me, I cannot tell. That is from R. Francis. He compares life with a hound. It is a hunting dog which always surprises him to the point that he cannot clearly identify whether it's a friend or a foe.
All right, that was very clear, Kiel. Any other type? Yes, Ivan.
Ma'am, the apostrophe.
So the apostrophe?
It is a direct address to somebody absent, long dead, or even to an inanimate object.
First is simile.
Here's my example from the famous Like a Molavit Tree by R. Silueta da Costa. Not yet Rizal, not yet. Rest not in peace. There are 1,000 waters to be spanned. There are 1,000 mountains to be crossed. There are 1,000 crosses to be... There are 1,000 crosses to be borne. Here, the poet addresses Rizal as the national artist, not to rest in peace yet, because the fight is not yet over.
Yes, you're right there. So you're addressing Rizal. All right, another. Yes, another figure of speech.
Ma'am, there's
Sigmund.
also the personification.
The personification.
Ma'am, it is giving personal attributes to inanimate objects or to abstract ideas. Here's an example from Robert Frost.
Okay.
Leaves got up in coil and hissed. Blindly struck at my knee and missed.
All right. With your example, I could clearly visualize the pile of leaves that are blown by the wind. Okay. Any more figure of speech? Yes, Gian.
Another one is metonymy. Metonymy is a substitution of a word that relates to a thing or person to be named for the name itself. This is the use of a closely related thing to represent what is literally meant. An example, crown will have an heir, the brass will see to death. Crown here suggests a king or ruler, while brass suggests a military officer.
All right, very good, Kian. Did you know that sometimes this device is used to include synecdoche?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Farah, go ahead.
In fact, I have a rather similar example of what is called a synecdoche, which actually means the naming of a part to mean the whole. I should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of the silent seas. I think claws here means a crab or a lobster, since they are the inhabitants of the ocean floors and they also have claws.
Well, that is just part of a familiarization lesson on metaphors. There are, of course, other types such as hyperbole, litotes, paradox, antithesis, and many more, which are discussed in the TSM. Now, for figures of speech to be effective, they must be fresh, apt, and natural. Most of all, they must be appropriate to the whole poem. We are now ready for the larger meaning of a poem, that is getting into the symbol. How is symbol different from the metaphor? A symbol is a word or image that signifies something other than what it represents, even when it denotes a physical, limited thing. It carries enlarging connotations, unlike similes and metaphors that clarify some larger question by keeping our attention to the things they describe, like lilies and rotten meat and early morning cries. Symbols and allegories urge us to look beyond the literal significance of the poem's statement of action. Let us see how this class interprets the symbol in the poem.